Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 270 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us tonight as we are going to be covering the Ohio Derby with a great preview of the Saturday Late Pick 5 at Thistle Downs, again highlighted by the $500,000 Ohio Derby and the return of two Phils. And also later on, Jim Miller will be here from Hawthorne to talk about a huge contest day that Hawthorne has, we've talked about on the show for the last several weeks. And they have a derby themselves. They got the Hawthorne Derby this weekend as well, which will play a huge factor into one of the contests that they have. Jim Miller will be on the show here to talk about that. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. After you do that, hit that notification bell so you know new content will arise, and smash that like button. We'd really appreciate that. That will send the YouTube algorithm to our show and let people know about the ever-growing podcast we have here. You can follow me on Twitter at @HKravitz. I really think we give out, it is my Twitter handle, but it's really the podcast Twitter handle, and I really give out a variety of information on there and news, and it's really something important to follow. I know a lot of you that are watching or will be watching or listening do follow on Twitter, but if you are on Twitter and you do not follow, you really should at @HKravitz to get a lot of great information. And then bottom of the screen, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. You can see right there is my email. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Great listening platforms. The Power Picks had a few decent scores. Canterbury last night had high front, only paid 2-1. It was hard to get prices last night in general. Some of the fields were small, but there were some prices out there. We gave out high front, and the Bettin Boozin guys, we'll talk about last night in a minute when I bring on Pete Visco, but they did an awesome job. We gave out some nice scores there. Speaking of Pete Visco, website that he created, that's awesome, hhhracingpodcast.com. All right, I think that really takes care of anything. We don't have a lot of administrative items to discuss, and we do need to just touch on last night, and I want to do that with my wonderful friend and co-host, which I'm looking forward to seeing in, let's see, how many days? Just over a month now, a little over a month. We will actually meet Pete Visco in person. We're not really sure if he's real yet, but I think we will find out that he is when we meet him at Saratoga. Really excited. When I say we, I mean Paul Halloran, almost the entire HHH Racing Podcast gang. Most people have met each other. Not everyone, but a lot of people have met each other, but no one has met the mysterious Pete Visco. Let's see if he's still on the east side of Maryland. Let's see if he's there. Yes, he is. Pete, Ohio Derby Day, the return of two Phils. How are we doing?
Yeah, I mean that would be the. I'm glad he's there. Or else I'm not too sure the Ohio Derby would be much race that we'd be really paying attention to if two Phils didn't show up. So I'm glad he's there. We're glad he's back. Hopefully in form still.
Yeah, he's got one horse to his inside. I think that can be an absolute threat, and has pretty good form lines, as you know what I'm talking about. We'll discuss that.
Yeah.
But two Phils is going to be a pretty heavy favorite. It looks like on Saturday. Pete, I want to. There are a lot. Let's talk about some people in the chat real quick before we get on. We got Michael Osen is here. Wow.
He's hoping for two Phils to be in form. Yeah,
Michael Austin is singling two Phils. Michael, you are a gambler, buddy. Just kidding. It's pretty logical. Stephen Vanderbrook is here. Sean Kane. Sean, thank you very much. I want to touch on this. Great job last night, Howard. It was not just me, guys. I mean, I was just there at the track, but there's no way I could have done it without Pete and all the other people, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Ralph Conte. I heard Ralph gave me a little crap last night on the show. At least that's what it looked like when I read it. But Ralph, nice. Yeah, that's okay. I can handle it. Ralph, thanks for joining us. And Jeff Amster, always great viewer of the show. Howard, great job at Canterbury last night. By the way, what do you listen to in the car on the way back to Chicago? Well, Jeff, that's a great question. The answer is nothing, because I did not drive. I flew. So there you go. I hate long car rides. It's about 6 hours, Pete. I mean, I could have done it, but
No,
I
I
got
don't. I don't like to
back
do
and
anything over 3.5 is my tops
I
at this
agree with
point.
you. Boy, do I hate long car rides. I
Yeah,
agree with you. Like 2.5 hours is a long car ride.
yeah.
So, yeah, there's no way I'm driving there and driving back and then having the shows and all that. Pete, let's talk about last night very quickly. First of all, great job. I watched the entire show this morning, partially on the plane, and then when I got home here, I had a real early flight this morning. A little tired, but I'll be okay. Thought you guys did a great job. I actually was happy with the technology from Canterbury. I thought my sound was actually better than I expected. We could definitely hear Florent Giroux. I think that was probably the highlight of the show. Interviewing Florent Giroux after the race, and then also I'm very proud of the. Apparently, I checked Equibase. Apparently, in the turf sprint, I did get an 8 buyer. Pete, according to you,
Was
get
it an 8? Okay, that's not bad. That's
buyer.
better
It
than
is
0.
officially in the chart.
I mean, that's better than 0, right? I mean, at least we've seen some, you go through some of these races and you see a couple of the negatives and the zeros. So, we'll get you next out. I think you were closing late. So I think we'll get you next time.
I thought I was more of a solid 14 or 15 buyer with a late time form figure in the 50s. I mean, I was really coming
Maybe they'll make an adjustment like they do sometimes.
We got to put Mulkowski on the line, Pete.
Yeah, we'll call. Maybe the time was off on the how they time these races, they're off a little bit.
There's been plenty of timing issues, but in all seriousness, great job, Pete and Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, it was great seeing you on there. We saw you on the show. And anybody, by the way, if you go to the website in the photos section, there's some a few photos from last evening. I mean, there weren't a ton, but I pulled a couple off the YouTube and off of Twitter. So if anybody wants to check those out, they're out there as well.
Thank you for doing that. And I also was on with Angela for a good 15 minutes before on the simulcast feed. And I thought I did a decent job. I mean, I'll let people decide for themselves, but I thought the presentation was pretty good. And again, I didn't want to put the link up again. I don't want to make this about last night or about me or anything, but if people want to see it, they didn't see it. Canterbury Park.
It's on the website too. It's on our website as well.
The link to their YouTube channel.
Yeah, on the home page where we sort of have your various appearances, there's a link to that so people don't have to, remember to dig up for it. So it's on there.
So check the website. We're not going to go through the whole website. Thanks, Pete. I didn't know you did.
Yeah, no.
He does stuff I don't even know
I just do. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I've been a little busy last 24 hours, but thanks for letting me know. I had a really good time. And thanks again to Canterbury Park. Look forward to going up there again. The only negative is, the field sizes are small there right now in general. And I got a little hint of frustration from them. But look, field sizes are small in a lot of places in the Midwest, especially, Pete. There's just only so many horses to go around. And, Ellis/Churchill's got purses for 120 for maidens. I mean, it's very hard. Indiana Grand's got some nice purses. Just, the Prairie Meadows, the Hawthorns, the Canterburys, the world. They're struggling a little bit with the field size, but they did I think they did 2.4 million in handle last night, Pete. So that's nice. It was a little bit down from the previous year at Canterbury, but for a Wednesday night, I'd say that's pretty good. So they were overall pleased with the night.
I think I always like that track because it seems pretty fair. It seems to play, it's not like some of the other tracks where you just get speed on the top. I think it's pretty fair to everyone. There were some odd late odds drops that we noted on the show at least. But other than that, I thought it was fair. I thought there were some good quality races and some good quality horses. We actually saw a couple horses that I think could do some damage elsewhere at some other meets. So that's always impressive too. Yeah.
Yeah, those damn CAWs come in and, computer wagering. There was the money in the first leg, that race 2, where Fuerte Ventura, I think that's the name of the horse, took a huge late hit, was 4-5. I never envisioned that, and of course won the race because they know. Barely, though. That was an exciting race. But that was not on the show, but that was a very exciting race.
You had Flo on, and he gets the call on Worthington while he's on the show. And then
how about that?
And they wind up betting that horse. As soon as they put Flo on, he got bet down to 7-5 or something.
3-2, I think.
or was it 3-2? Whatever it ended up at, he got pounded.
Yeah, and that was in live real time. If you didn't watch our show last night, it's in the Bettin and Boozin section of our YouTube channel. You should really check it out. There's a lot of cool stuff that was going on, stuff in the paddock. And again, Pete and Kyle and Patrick broke down the races, and we had a lot of fun last night.
And that game was fun, by the way. We should do that again where
and
we did the picks.
Terry, oh boy, last name, do you remember? Terry, right?
Yeah, it was Frank? Terry Frank, maybe? Yeah,
Terry
it was TF.
Frank,
Terry Frank, yeah.
And if Terry is listening or will be listening, I got your email, so we'll get that money to you ASAP.
But that was it was fun. It made
yeah,
I mean, we don't do a lot of live racing, so we can't really do that too often. But if
no.
we do have live days, that could be something fun to do in the future as well.
Pete, everyone's got me doing, becoming famous now, and well, I have. Listen, Ralph wants to know. I guess I'll be on Fox next. I did meet Paul LeDuc, a real nice guy, by the way. We're going to try to get him on the show as well. Look, I'm a full-time math teacher, everyone, and I need to, if I want
Well, not
full
in the summer.
retirement, if I need
Not in the
full
summer.
retirement. What's that?
Not in the summer.
No, that's true. If I want full retirement pension, I got to teach for another about 7 years, guys. So I don't know what my plans are going to be, but I'm trying to line myself up. Pete, I don't want to get off topic. I want to get onto the races, but no matter what line of work you're in at home there, you do need to put yourself in the best situation. And selfishly for me last night, that was a great experience and something I can put on the resume tape for something that I did. So again, no matter what line of work you're on, you do have to build your resume up a little bit. And this show is a big resume builder for everyone, including yourself. But to be live and doing live broadcasts and to be on a simulcast feed is sort of a bit of a feather in my cap.
100%.
If people thought it was good. So
especially where it started from. So if you think about starting in the first show to now being live on Canterbury, being live on some of these other shows, I mean, you've come a long way, and it's amazing to see, and it's a nice trajectory. So you keep doing those, and we'll get you off this show, and then then we can have the early bird, and we can start doing these at 3:00, like me and Paul would like. Yeah, so then we'll be good.
By the way, Paul Halloran has a family engagement tonight. Paul's not going to be with us. Everything's fine, but he has an important family dinner that he is attending to. So, and last thing before we get to the races, a late happy birthday to Charlie Freeman from Bettin Boozin. His birthday was yesterday. Charlie turned 21. So, Pete, all the young men are growing up. Even your own son, they're all grown up. Charlie might be having a beverage on the show now. People are wondering why doesn't Charlie ever have a beverage in his hand? If you didn't know, he wasn't 21. We didn't feel comfortable with that.
He didn't want to get arrested. We didn't want to narc him out on the show.
So
I'm sure he never had a drink before last night.
Sure. I mean, Ohio State, they don't.
No, they don't like cocktails there.
So he may or may not have a beverage on the show. That's completely up to him, by the way. There's no pressure of any of us. So, but anyway, all right. With Simon O'Neill's here. Hello, what's up, Simon from the UK? Wow, they have bombs today, Pete. I don't know if you saw some of the prices.
I did.
At American Rascal lost. Did not look good. Didn't break great, and not good.
Dead last, I think. If I looked at it, I think maybe because I didn't see the race, so I wound up just looking at the chart and I thought I saw dead last, so I didn't know if something happened or it was just a really bad race.
Okay, well that's not good, but they'll regroup. I got a feeling we'll see him in the Turf Sprint in the Breeders' Cup going 5 furlongs at San Anita in November.
And our boy, Ralph, our boy Frankie Dettori, he brings it home for the Italy boys. He got some today. He got a nice.
Did he?
Today.
Okay. Yeah. I had zero time. There's some good races today, but I had zero time to look at stuff. All right, guys, let's get on with it, Pete. Ohio Derby Day. A lot of Ohio bred races. There's some big fields here. One thing you're going to know is, Pete, you don't know this until this very moment. In fact, no one knows this except me. Pete, you've been on the show for, officially as a co-host a little over a year now, about 14 months. And when you see our picks, Pete, you might get a good chuckle because I don't think we've been more lockstep on any show than tonight. It's absolutely crazy. Starting with this first race where you have 283, I have 285. And I don't think these fields were that obvious either, but we're thinking very like, man. So I really hope that it's going to work out for us. The first race is an Ohio bred allowance, 6 furlongs. It's a nice field of 10 with the morning line favorite is the number 3 Cowtown Boss, a very speedy gelding. Barbaron is in the saddle. Now you and I don't usually play Thistledown, so I had to look at some stats. I'm sure you did also to get a little more familiar with these jocks. But we're both going with the same horse, maybe named after the movie. I don't know. I'm assuming. Great name. I love
cool
it.
name. That's actually a
very
good
cool.
Name. That was
Hoppy
a good
Gilmore.
Yeah.
Not happy. He's probably happy too. Hoppy Gilmore. Rivera 9-2. There's a particular stat that I really that took me to this horse. But what do you like about Hoppy Gilmore in the first leg of the Pick 5 on Saturday?
I thought this was a pretty tough. Yeah, I thought this was a pretty tough race, and I think we're going to say that about a few of these as we go. I mean, we see the first thing you notice, though, is this horse is coming off about a 10-month layoff at this point. So that scares you a little bit. But then you look and Roan, Michael Roan, I assume that's how it's pronounced. I don't really know many of the trainers here, but he was 36% on the win end, 45% in the money first after 240 to 330 day layoff was the range that I used. So I just like to see that because this was a horse that at the end of his 3-year-old year was really coming around, and you could see 2 straight wins, good, decent buyers for this field. The last one was in the slop, ran down the one horse here. Oh,
hey, Pete, I'm just showing the stat. I know you weren't looking at the screen. Now this is last 5 years, 180 days, so 6 months or more. You put a slight difference out, but 29% on the win end.
I mean, that's excellent.
6 month or more layoff. Very low ROIs. This horse, this trainer is bet off the layoff, but wow, is he very good. And again, the green means it's better than his par, which is a lot of your power picks stats talk about this. But anyway, go ahead. I'll go back to the PPs.
Yeah, and the one thing I did like, I don't think there's a ton of pace in here, but I do think there's 2 speed horses, and Hoppy Gilmore in the last 2 wins did close into relatively slow paces. So he has that ability to sit. Like he's tactical. He looks tactical enough in some of his races to where hopefully he could just sit right off. I don't really like either of the speed horses all that much. I think they have the ability to come back to the field. The works have been pretty solid. You see the one on June 3rd, the Bullet in 48-2, then gets another one 2 weeks. He missed a week, but I don't know if that was intentional or not. Comes back with another 48-2. So seems to be in good form, was in good form at the end of last year. So hopefully that's held. And then this horse is owned by Michael Roan as well, the trainer. So, hopefully he thinks this one is pretty solid. What do you think about it?
31% this year, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, he seems awesome. Again, I apologize. I don't know many of the trainers or jockeys here, but I mean, just based on numbers, he's pretty awesome.
Pete, one angle for me, and it's not just Ohio. This is a $40,000 purse. They jack up the purses a little bit on these big days.
Sure.
And for these connections to bring this horse back on this day in particular, to me means a lot of intent. Like they're not going to run this horse if he's not ready for 40K on their biggest day of the year in Ohio. So I don't know if that came into your consideration, but I was thinking about that because they could have come back in any probably allowance spot throughout their meet, and they're coming back here and they know it's going to be a tougher allowance race. So that's an angle for me that I thought was important. The other horse we'll talk about here is Elliot the Dragon. We both have this horse second. Has a inconsistent buyers, but I guess we both figure he can run back to some of his previous races. He certainly's got races on the go back that are good enough.
Well, it's funny because some of these horses are weird where from a buyer standpoint, they're very up and down. And I guess you would expect that because they're not the highest quality, but they have like what you look for, I think, in these races, or at least I do, is can I find a horse who has a past race or has multiple past races that I think can win this? And when I look at Elliot the Dragon, that was one thing I thought was, I think this horse has races that can win it. The last race, he's sitting in 4th the whole race as the favorite into a crawling pace. So hopefully we can get a little bit more pace here. Another one that we have that, though, we're going to have to come from behind a bit with this one. So my thought, this jockey, Ibarra and Batista combination, the jockey trainer combo, 6 for 14 wins, 12 for 14 in the money overall, just together in the last 5 years. The one thing that scares you, and you can see it on the screen there, 0 for 5 on the win end at Thistle, but 8 for 10 in the money at the distance, 3 for 5 at Thistle. So at least, he's there. He just looked like a solid horse to me. And again, I don't love the speed, so I was looking for someone who might be able to come from off of it.
Yeah, he's much better at Mahoning, which is sort of weird, but Mahoning Valley's that MVR.
There's a few horses like that too, that between those 2 tracks perform very differently. And I don't know enough about them in comparison to know what that means, unfortunately.
And we're going to move on to the next race, but where's the speed going to come from? Well, the one you'd think has to go, Zachariah, who's the fastest early time for him, but doesn't always hold on. And then you've got to think the 3 Cowtown Boss will be out there as well. I mean, we never know, Pete. I mean, it seems like this day and age, pace complexion is harder and harder.
That horse is, you see, that horse, the favorite, 1 for 9 at the track, but 8 for 9 in the money. So that's one that seems like likes to get on the lead, but doesn't hold. So the hope would be that that's exactly what happens here, and our 2 closers can come up and get the money home.
All right, let's move on to the next race, Pete. The next race is race 9. It is the Daniel Stearns Cleveland Gold Cup Stakes. This is a mile and eighth for restricted 3-year-olds. So this is the real Ohio Derby, right, Pete? In a
This is
sense,
the
it's
real
just
one.
Ohio
Yeah,
breds, Ohio Derby number 2, I guess we can call it. They're going a mile and eighth, which is literally a stretch for a lot of these horses, as you'll see the PPs here. It's another
a lot of
pretty
sprinters.
big field of 8. Yep, the morning line favors the number 6 Trojan Tail for Michael Maker and Farron Peterson. I'm not sure we've talked about this lady very much. Farron Peterson is a solid jockey who rides in many places, but she's in Ohio on Saturday. And let me go ahead and switch over the banners. And Pete, this is the one race that were very different. You'll see the other 3 races following this were similar, but this is the one race where we are extremely different. Pete's going 4-5-3. I'm going 6-2-3. So Pete has the 4 and 5, 1, 2. I don't have those 2 at all in the top 3. This is a wide open race. Pete, by the way, I think the first race is a spread race. I think this race is a spread race also. You are going with the 4 return on investment. Let's go ahead and show the PPs. What do you like about him in the second leg of the pick 5?
I really liked handicapping this race. I thought this was just a real high quality race where there was a lot to choose from. The 3 horses that you have, I was down to, I tossed 3, had 5 left that I was sort of deliberating between, and that was, they were all in there. So we're not so off as it maybe looks. Return on investment was an odd one for me. So the horse actually only has 1 dirt race, and it was at 5.5 furlongs, so not necessarily applicable. Then goes out to a mile, doesn't run that well. Then a mile and a 16th, ran really nice closing race there. But the thing I actually liked about this horse, if you look, the sire and the dam, both 23 to 24% in dirt routes. So there is breeding there for dirt routes. And I think with this horse's running style, hopefully with a little bit of speed, I think there is in this race. I think maybe this one, if he takes to the dirt, as I think he should based on his breeding, I think his closing style is going to be suited to this mile and an eighth, whereas some of these other horses, they're really stretching out this far for the first time. So I think this one may have an advantage in that respect.
So I just want to point out that the Dam Almost an Angel did win 217,000, but then I stretched it out to all lines. And like, where this horse win his money? I mean, it was mainly earlier on in his career on the turf. I just want to point that out, as you can see.
Yep.
So he was really more, she was really more of a turf horse, is where she earned her money. Now, when you look at some of the siblings, they weren't in really a lot of high class races where they were winning their money. And so I don't know, Pete. I hear you on the percentage, but this horse has been training on the Sin, has really done better in theory on the grass. Although I guess the first race I didn't watch the race, but I don't know. I have this horse only as a C. I could be very wrong, but the breeding, Caracante, Artie Schiller, yeah, boy, I don't know distance on the dirt. We'll find out, but you're going to get a little bit of a price, I think. And then you've got the 5, Hey Eugene, a midshipman colt out of a Margie's Wildcat mare, who has run some fast numbers, including breaking his maiden at Oaklawn, which is definitely a feather in his cap. But the big question is, and it's Jareth Loveberry, who I saw last night in person. By the way, I could tell you why he didn't run the last race if we want to get into that.
Yeah, I was curious.
All right, well, real quick. So actually, let's put us on screen real quick. So in live real time, there was a jockey valet, I'm not sure who it was, asked Giroux if he can ride the 2 in the last race of the day at Canterbury last night instead of Jareth Loveberry. His shoulder has been acting up, and he rode Artemis City Limits, I believe, in that race. In the turf sprint, we can look it up. And on the gallop out, it was really bothering him, and I think he dismounted from Artemis City Limits on the gallop out, Pete, because Artemis City Limits came back without Jareth Loveberry back into the paddock and the saddling area. So it's nothing major, but his shoulder was bothering him to the extent that he didn't want to ride the last race. You got to remember now, he is riding 2 fills, so obviously he wants to make sure he's okay for that. So
Yeah.
it was a minor injury issue with his shoulder. At least I think it's minor. That's what happened to Jareth Loveberry, FYI. Can Hey Eugene get the distance? That's my big question, Pete. That's my main concern. I have him as a backup because of that reason.
Yeah, actually, the dam side to me was leaning more on the sprint side, but
Very sprinty.
I
There it
just
is.
thought that this race as a whole had a lot of that in it. So I like the form. I think this one just was more of a form play where, and the horse coming from Oaklawn and Belmont and has Maker, has Loveberry. So there's a little bit more, maybe, I don't want to say class, but maybe just a little bit more class on this horse. So I didn't want to just straight out toss the horse for that reason.
Yep.
Maker had some nice stats. Maker, 71% in the money. So not necessarily on the win end, 9 furlongs and up in these sort of non-graded listed stakes races on dirt. So I was like, this horse should run, should be there. Now, again, if we'll see with the distance, what happens with the distance, but Maker can usually get horses to stretch. So I feel like if he has confidence a little bit that this horse can stretch, then maybe I'll go with him on it as opposed to some other trainer who is a little more inexperienced with something like that.
Lon, what's up? Long time no talk. Lon Garfield Jr. is here. It says hello. And this is interesting. The cross country pick 5. How about this, Pete? I didn't know this. 4 races from Ascot.
Yep.
And then one something from Belmont. So they're going 4 of the 5 races from Ascot, which is,
I saw that.
sort of shows you there aren't a lot of big stake races or big races this weekend, obviously. So anyway, I have Hey Eugene as a B, Pete. This breeding, maybe he's going to get loose and just win, but this is a big stretch, literally, to go 1 mile and 1/8. I'm using him because I respect the connections, but this is another one like the 4. This sort of has to prove it to me a little bit. I like the 2 here. Quite a bit. This race to me was a lot about breeding, and because these horses have to go the 1 mile and 8, sort of like the Kentucky Derby. I know this horse can get the distance, at least based on the breeding. How about Super Saver out of a Drosselmeyer mare, and only has gone long once, and that was on turf, and he probably doesn't want turf, but I think he wants long. She got a nice inside trip, so I do like fair and square quite a bit here, and I have Trojan Tail. The other Maker, again, Outwork is the sire, Tail the cat, just more dirt breeding. And I'm just going with 2 horses on top, Pete, that I think, actually I went with the 6 on top first, but I'm going 6, 2, 3. I'm using your 4 and 5. I just want to go with horses that I think will do better on the dirt at this distance, but there's a lot of question marks here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I mean, to me, I think you said it best at the beginning. I think it's pretty much of a spread race. I was looking 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 were all in the mix for me. So
yep,
I know and it's probably not the best because they're probably going to be maybe the 5 top choices, but I feel like there won't be a big favorite. So I think like the lowest horse will probably be like 3 to 1. So I'm not too worried about that in this field.
Yeah, it should be a fun race. Let's go on to the next race. The next race again is not when I say again, it's a 2-turn dirt races, which by the way are my favorite races to bet. 2-turn dirt races are probably the races I do best with. So let's go on to the next race. It's race 10. Pete, you see our picks on the bottom of the screen. I mean, same 3 horses. I'm not sure that's really that obvious in this race. So again, great minds, or at least we hope great minds, are thinking alike. 1 mile and a 16th. Again, these are Ohio breds. Again, obviously the George Lewis Memorial. These are for older males. This is a field of 10. And the morning favorite is the number 8, Big Truck, Smith and Rodriguez. I'm going with chalk here. Pete, you're going number 6, Relish the Ride, for Radosevich, who is a very good trainer that I'm familiar with in Ohio, and Rivera riding 5 to 1 morning line. Tell us about Relish the Ride.
Well, let me tell you one thing about my handicapping of this race first. This is the first race I can remember in a while where, as I went through, I usually sort of bucket them A, B, C, whatever, just to get a feel for who I like and who I want to consider on the top end. And after I did that, I didn't like any of these horses to win the race. So it was, that usually doesn't happen where I'm like, I don't particularly like any of the horses. I think I could find flaws in every single one of them. So eventually the 6 and the 8 were the 2 I had sort of as A's. So I landed on them. I guess with my opinion was to land on them. A couple things were with the 6. I mean, the 6 is came back in 2023, didn't end the year that great, but the last 2 were at Mahoning, I think, the last 2, and then came back to Thistle, where's 5 for 9 wins. So clearly likes this track a little better. And in the first race of 2023, after a 5-6 month layoff, just broke terrible and was in dead last, but closed nice, came home best in that field. Next time, steps up a little bit, wins the race, comes back with a little bit of a better buyer. And then if you look back in 2022, there's races that could beat this field. So if you can get back to those races, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm hoping that this one is on the upswing, can maybe get back to that form from 2022. He's only 4, so it's not like he's an older horse who can't recapture that form. So there's a little bit to like. Again, I don't love it, but I just think this one was one I landed on who I thought maybe could be on the upswing.
Well, the Sire Mobile, I remember this horse. It was a really nice horse. Race in Canada mainly, did come for the Arlington Million, actually.
Yeah.
You see his buyers are really more of a did a little better. Better on turf. I think back then at Woodbine, these are actual dirt. This is dirt. This is not synthetic. I'm pretty sure in 04 and 05.
I mean, talking all graded stakes for the most part, but that's
this was
solid.
a nice horse. Yeah, almost 1.9 million. So distance shouldn't be a problem. If he gets back to his previous races, that's my only concern. I've got him 3rd. I wasn't sure he was as good as he was when he was 3, but he very well may be. And then my top choice and your second choice, Big Truck for Smith and Rodriguez. I suppose you could say the same thing that we just said, where maybe he was better last year, but I think he's better going long. I mean, when you look at his record, he looks like he's better. The distance you see here at the top right-hand corner, Pete, I highlighted everything. Didn't mean to do that. Anyway, 9 races, the distance, 7 in the money, 3 wins. I think he's these lower buyers here, I think, was somewhat a product of the distance. I think he wants to go long, obviously, by Bird Run, who was out of Birdstone. So he wants to go long. Is there enough speed to set it up? We'll see. Has won 358,000. Nice horse.
Can I tell you the two things? No, I agree everything you said, and I think there's a little bit of speed here, not super fast, but there is some. The two things that concerned me were the two best races, 3 and 4 back, were both in the slop, both on muddy tracks actually. And if you look up at the wet record there, you're talking 8 out of 9 in the wet, and none of the wins. Obviously, you could see again at Thistledown, 0 for 4 win, but only 1 for 4 in third. So only hit third. So for some reason, the wins have been coming on off tracks and at other tracks. So that's what just scared me a little bit off. But again, I have the horse in second, so it was more of a lesser of many evils thing. But
what's going on at Thistle? Are there sand pits? Are there like little?
Well, this is what I don't know.
Divots in the dirt course they got to jump over like Frogger. What's going on with all these?
Telling you,
I don't like Thistle. What the hell's going on?
I haven't seen that many. I kept noticing with so many of these horses where their form was so different between these few different tracks that they run on. And I was like, I'm not used to that, where usually you say maybe they like a track more, but the form is like completely opposite on certain tracks, which really threw me in some of these races.
This horse could take them wire to wire if he breaks. He's a little bit inconsistent, but I thought Romantic Cowboy was interesting. I've got him second. You got him third.
Yeah, I that's another one though who I think seems to like the off tracks a bit, but I do think there's speed here, and I do think this one. There's the 4. I think is also speed.
4 is definitely speed. Yep.
So depending on what happens with the cheap speed, but it could be enough speed to annoy the 9 enough or wear the 9 out. It's not like the 9 is used to holding very often. So
a horse that Paul would not bet because Rosario is riding. Oh, wait, not Joel Rosario.
I saw that, and I was like, I wonder if are they related? Is that a cousin or something? I didn't know what was going on there. By the way, Joel, when I saw that today, wasn't Joel on American Rascal?
I believe so, yes, he was.
Yeah, so I didn't know if that was just I took that horse in 19th place because I'm Joel, and that's what I do.
Raymond Cromley started Thistle 1991. Buddy Cunningham, the starting judge, helped me get started. Pretty cool, Raymond.
That's
so
awesome,
Raymond should have a big day at Thistle. He's got a little inside info. He said the horses usually come back sound because of the good cushioning. So maybe a little more give in the ground. Although Mahoney, they run more in the winter, and so it's going to be harder because of the surface. So that's also a reason. All right, Pete, let's get on to the next race here. We got 2 more races to cover, then we'll have Jim Miller on. This next race, it's the Lady Jacqueline. This is a nice race. This is an open company race.
Really good.
For fillies and mares. They're going 2 turns again. a mile and an eighth. It's a field of a 12, excuse me. And the morning line favorite here is, let me take the banner off. Sorry, banner. Here we go, Pete. Like I said,
Oh
we're
boy.
very similar. I know, amazing, isn't it? Uh, let's see, a lot of heat on these horses. What is the morning line? Oh, 8. Interstate Daydream, a horse we've talked about in this show quite a bit.
Yep.
For Cox and Giroux. Last time I checked, Giroux had a pretty good night at Canterbury, 3 wins. We talked to him personally. It was a good guy. Let's see. Sorry, we're both going 4-8. So we are going with Le Davida, Chilean bred for Nacho Correas and Cheminaud, the regular rider. What do you like about this one, Pete?
Well, the biggest thing that I liked, and I don't know if this is the most reliable reason, I just think there's a lot of speed in this race. And I think some of the horses who are the speed aren't used to having other speed in them, and Interstate Daydream, the favorite, is one of them. So I felt like there's some horses who might be a little more uncomfortable on the lead if these horses go, which again, we always say we think it's going to do it on paper and it doesn't. So as I looked at it, I thought the 4, who again is going to be coming off the pace, so we're going to be relying on that, but had been really running against and been losing to Interstate Daydream. But it was when Interstate Daydream in the last one was just crawling on the lead. 2 back was against Secret Oath, Clairiere, and Interstate Daydream with a slow pace. Yeah.
Let's watch this race. Le David is the 1. Misty Vale is also in the race as the 5. Interstate Daydream is the 2. So you want to pay attention to the 1, 2, and 5. And what you're going to see here is a very slow pace, as Pete mentioned. You see they went 24 and 1. That's not too slow. They slowed it down. You see here 48 and 4, Pete, almost 49. The horse we like is in the back. I mean, it's just so hard to close into that. And he makes a nice run, but my one concern is on the wrong lead the entire length of stretch speed.
Yes.
He doesn't quite get there, but he is closing into a slow pace. This lead change is a concern for me, though.
No, and the lead change, the lead change, but the hope maybe I don't know, maybe that was a tightener and wasn't as sharp. I don't remember watching all the other replays to know if that was a consistent problem with this horse. But my thought
I think he's been on the wrong lead before, but I didn't watch I sort of remember that's been an issue. But anyway, maybe he'll be better second off.
Yeah, and by the way, you keep calling it a he, so that's a drink,
by
the way. Yeah, you said it the whole time when we were watching the race. So that's
I'm not gonna lie to people at home. I'm working on like 5 hours of sleep, everyone. I'm not gonna.
Paul's not here, so you have to murder the genders a little bit.
By the way, speaking of Bettin, Boozin had a few beverages after the show last night.
I would hope so.
Nothing crazy. I mean,
was it at the Hold'em table or no?
Actually, it wasn't the Hold'em table.
It
was.
Excellent.
I played a little bit. Listen, it was a fun night. So it wasn't that late, to be honest. I got back to the hotel at like midnight, but I had a 7:45 flight. So anyway.
Excellent. By the way, we were talking about this being a tough race. So I currently have 5 horses on the A line. So it's not like, again, this wasn't a super confident. They wouldn't make like the A line depending upon what the final, when I finally do it. But as I go through each race, I sort of bucket who I think could win the race. And I had 5 horses out of, there's only 9 in or 10 in here. Oh, actually 11, 12. Oh, shoot. So it's not that bad. It's not even half the field. So
it's just a lot of A's. But yeah, it's wide open. Let's talk about the A a little more, Pete. Probably the best speed of the speed, but like you said, there is other speed. I think what the 3. Let me just sorry for scrolling everyone at home this quickly, but I know the 3 Red Hot Last. I mean, she has to go, right? I think she's probably faster than Interstate Daydream. Just
definitely.
Not classy.
So is the 9, I think, as well.
There's a lot of outside speed, right? If I recall, let's see, the 9, Secret Fix, absolutely,
is fast. The 9 is
very
fast,
and improving out of Secret by Secret Circle. So. Interesting. The 10 also is not very good based on the rest of the competition, but she wants to go. I think the 12's gonna have to use a little bit. It sure looks like there's gonna be some speed on the outside and on the inside. So that's why I think we've Interstate Daydream only second here.
Yeah, and I was even scared. I was actually even scared of that. So I was even scared of having her in second, but she just always seems to run her race for the most part. I mean, she's pretty consistent. She's 2 for 2 at this distance too. But again, I don't know if that's because she likes to get on the lead or be close, and she's just tactical enough where she can run her race. So maybe going a little longer, she doesn't have to deal with super fast paces at this longer distance. So again, I don't know if that's going to happen here. So if somebody said to me they wanted to toss this horse, I would probably say, yeah, knock yourself out to toss the favorite here. But she's consistent. She's high quality. She's been running against really good horses. And it's Cox and Giroux who are, they always have to play them or at least consider them especially when you're doing a pick 5. So there's not a lot of knocks on this horse. Again, my biggest knock is, can she hold when there's other pace pressure?
Here's one of your horses. I don't know if he's still one of your horses.
She still is. I was going to mention that, and I didn't have her in my top 3, which I didn't last time either, by the way, on the show when she ran second, because we did that race.
Amos, I see no reason why this horse can't win. My racehorse, 63 caliber, just ran a career top. I'm a little bit dubious of that. And she's coming back relatively quick, but when Amos gets horses good, they can get really good. See Who's Your Filly in the dictionary for that one. So maybe this horse is just coming around. I mean, she's by Gun Runner. The talent is there. If she's putting it together, she's a major player here at 5-1 morning line, Pete. Wow.
Yeah, and she's when she runs her best races when she's tactical and could sit up relatively close. So if you can get her up close, then I think she's dangerous. Because my fear, and the reason I didn't have her in the last one, I thought maybe off those first 2 races, I was like, man, maybe she just lost it. I mean, even though those were high quality fields, she just ran horrible. I mean, in 3 back was the favorite and got sort of killed. So maybe she's coming around. Hopefully that's the case. She's been training pretty well. So she's definitely not one I'm going to leave off. I'm not going to lose if she wins. I'm not going to lose the pick 5. I can tell you that much.
Raymond's got some inside intel, so I have to show some comments from him. Pete says you don't want to be too far back. The farther than 5th. I don't know why he's coming up with that particular number. I think there's a lot of other factors other than just coming up with a 5th. But we understand what you're saying, Raymond. You don't want to be too far back on this track, in his opinion, entering the final turn. We'll see how the track plays. I think the weather is fine. Pete, I've been busy. I don't know. I have no idea what the hell the weather is going to be like in Ohio on Saturday. I don't know how it's been like in Maryland, but it's been very dry in the Midwest lately, like the last month. I mean, we had getting the drought conditions. I mean, it's been beautiful. It has not been hot, so it's been terrific weather, but it's been very dry, and so I'm assuming it's been that way in Ohio. Although I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't check. You're the weatherman on the show, so we don't check. We wait for you to do it.
I'm not doing it tonight. People can check the weather channel. Amos apparently is very good at Thistle, and that's 2 S's, Raymond, by the way, just to let you know. But hey, who cares about that? Because I'm calling he's she's tonight. So and she's
that's like famous Amos cookies, the way he spelled it, which is high quality cookies anyway. So I'm down with that.
Pete, it's the Ohio Derby. Let's get to it here. It's the last race. It's the feature race. It's a grade 3. Let me show the race here. Pete, your general feeling really quick on these minor derbies. You've got, the Ohio, West Virginia, Indiana, etc. My feeling is I like these races. I mean, not everyone can compete in these grade 1s. The purses usually are fantastic. Usually get pretty big fields. And then on occasion, you get some horses that were allowance horses that really step up their game and become players in the 3-year-old division. So I like these midsummer kind of Midwestern derbies. I think they're fun.
No, I agree with you. The only difference is we generally don't get the top, who we consider to be the top-notch horses in these, which is true. So it's rare when that happens. Usually we get hey, we were in the Triple Crown season. These horses ran okay. They weren't quite up to that grade 1, like you're talking about, level, or they're ones that are moving up into the graded stakes level for the first time, like you said. But here we're getting the second place Derby horse, and it wasn't a fluke. This was a horse that a lot of people liked going into the Derby. So it's a little bit different here, but I agree with you. I love all these races. They're usually pretty competitive.
And let's not give too much short shrift to Bishop's Bay, who ran a big race in the Peter Pan and just lost to Arcangelo.
Yeah, that horse was decent, right? Arcangelo, we heard of that one before.
Came back and won the Belmont. So I think most people are going to see this as a 2-horse race. Pete, I don't know. Let's see what you have to say here as I go ahead and switch to the banners. I sort of hinted that we'd be similar tonight, and there you go. How about that, Pete?
Wow.
437, boom. Just bet 437 triple, pound it for 100 times, and it's all good. It won't pay much, but listen, you can hit it. Anyway, no, we're both going 2 fills. I'm not getting cheeky here. Neither are you. 2 fills was my personal top pick in the Derby on this show. And I thought he just ran a monstrous race in the Derby, made the first move. We all watched it. The thing that I do like about 2 fills here, I'll just go ahead and talk first, Pete.
Yeah, please.
people might compare Two Phils to King's Barnes in the respect that these are horses coming off of efforts in the Derby and you want to bet against them and they're monster favorites, blah, 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 right? To me, this is a completely different situation. First of all, Two Phils is a better horse, Pete, number one. Number two, it's an extra week of rest. Number three, they've been pointed this race really very quickly after the Derby. They said they were not running the Preakness. I don't think the Belmont was really a strong consideration for them from the start. And they're really pointing towards some of the Saratoga races and probably the Penn Derby, etc. So they've been always pointing here, and his work pattern has been not only steady but very good. When we get Jim Miller on the show here, Pete, we'll have him comment because, of course, he works out at Hawthorne. So I see zero chinks in his armor whatsoever. He doesn't lay over the field by the buyers other than the Derby. So I suppose that is one thing that you could point to, but the one thing I like, one of many things I like about Two Phils here is he's sitting outside the main competition, the main speed here. It looks like he's going to get a great trip. There's not a lot of speed to his outside. I mean, the main competition to his outside here, Lord Miles, is sort of a stalker closer type, and Haynes Strike is definitely a closer. You could see the field. So there's no one like on the outside that's going to be pressing down on him. And I think Two Phils can get any kind of trip that he wants with a very talented Bishop's Bay, definitely going to show speed. And then, of course, Henry Q with Carmouche, which I think is a very interesting jockey booking. You know he's going. I just don't think he classes up. It looks to me, Pete, like the 1 and 3 are just going to go out there. The 3's going to sit off the 1. Two Phils are going to sit off both of them and go by as he pleases if he's good enough. And I see no reason why 8-5, a complete pipe dream. I say 3-5.
3-5. Yep.
There's my take on Two Phils. What else do you want to add?
I agree everything you said, and the one thing you mentioned about from a buyer standpoint is if the Derby was the only sort of strong buyer, then I would definitely agree with you. You're like, hey, was that a little fluky? But I think we actually thought that going into the Derby was that 101 in the Jeff Ruby, was that really the outlier? Was it the synthetic that raised him up? But then when he came back and repeated it, don't forget, in those Derby preps, he actually ran very strong races similar to what he did in the Derby, where he was on the lead or up close to hot paces and was still the one who was always able to hold strong. Now, he wasn't winning those races, but he was able to hold. And I think that's why people liked him going into the Derby. To me, if you don't win this race, like he has to win this race if you're going to be a serious contender in, the Travers and in the future big races coming up. I just think he should beat this field. Bishop's Bay is a nice horse. He's quality, but I don't think he should be on the level of where Two Phils is right now if all goes to plan.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I'll push back a little bit. Like if he doesn't win this race, I'm not going to say he can't win the Travers. But
no, I'm not saying he can't, but I'm saying it would be disappointing, and I think this should be a springboard to bigger and better things.
The one thing about Two Phils, and boy, it's just timing fantastic, because I think we're going to bring on someone in the green room, not this very moment, because we don't want to see a mouth full of food from him, but no one knows what we're talking about except you and I. So Jim, we're not going to bring you on this very second, but I'm getting a better appreciation of deeper services, Pete. And the reason is because I've actually walked on some services recently, which I never thought I was, but I was at the Derby last night at Canterbury. I walked on that track. My point here is we know that the Churchill Downs has been can favor turf horses to some extent. Like turf horses can run, and sin horses have proven they can run well on the Churchill dirt. Canterbury, to me, was a little bit deeper surface. I'm sure Thistle Downs is more of a deeper dirt surface, as Raymond alluded to. Two Phil's best buyer on a real, maybe a deeper dirt surface is still only an 86. Now, we'll talk to Jim Miller in a second how deep a surface Hawthorne is in general. That's my only concern. He hasn't proven it on a what I'd say a true dirt course, but he's been working lights out at Hawthorne, which I know obviously is pretty much a true dirt course. So that's my only concern. We talked about Bishop's
Well, real
Bay.
quick on that, Ravelli has had some pretty good success here at Thistle as well. So presumably he knows the track and knows whether it would be suitable. So
Yep.
you have to put a little bit of faith, and maybe Jim can expound on that as well.
I Bishop's Bay is a B, Pete. And full disclosure, people that get the Power Picks will see I have Two Phil's A, Bishop's B,
Me too.
Bishop's Bay
Bishop's
B.
B.
Say that
Yeah,
10 times
same
fast.
difference.
And that's it. That's all I've got.
That's exactly what I have. Yep, exactly
well,
what I have.
you know what, Pete? I know he lost Arcangelo. This horse has got talent. And the one thing I do like about Bishop's Bay is I'm almost guaranteed he's going to get a great trip. He's going to sit outside of Henry Q. He's going to go by as he pleases. I think we both would agree with that. If Two Phil's maybe just gets in a little bit of trouble, doesn't break, Bishop's Bay should get first run. I would not be shocked if this horse wins. We'll get Jim Miller's opinion. I think this is a pretty talented horse. I would not overlook him. People are going to just single Two Phil's and think it's a free square. I'm not so sure.
I mean, I wouldn't, I definitely wouldn't talk anybody off of that, because it is one where you say, I'm either going to take Two Phil's or I'm going to try and beat Two Phil's in a lot of cases. But the problem with Bishop's Bay is I think Two Phil's can be just as quick as Bishop's Bay if he needs to.
You think?
And I think, yeah, I mean, Two Phil's has sat on and sat closer to faster paces than Bishop's Bay has run. And Bishop's Bay, he sits in first or second, but they're not super fast. So I think they're maybe in the same. I think Bishop's Bay is a little bit faster, but I think Two Phil's could be if he needed to. And I think Two Phil's is used to passing horses and being able to go by. I did hear on some show about Bishop's Bay that he has a tendency to wait on horses when he strikes the lead. And if you do that, you saw what happened. Arcangelo was able to beat him. If Two Phil's, if he sort of waits on Two Phil's, he might be in trouble, because Two Phil's will blow by him if he sort of waits on him. So he's going to have to, like when you said, when he clears and he gets first run, he's going to have to kick away in order to hold Two Phil's.
I agree. Like Drew did with Regal Realm last night, right? He's just got one. If he takes over, I think he knows he's got to get some separation from Two Phil's if he wants to win. Tom Espinosa is going 4-3-1. Michael Osen 4-3-1. Lon wants to join the show. Like, he wants to be on the screen here. Lon, you gotta have a special link to get on the show. But Lon, maybe we'll get you on sometime, buddy. We have had viewers and fans on the show like in our earlier days, so maybe we'll bring some of that back, Pete. I'm sure some people would love to come on. So Alon, maybe we'll do that, but no, you can't join us on screen here unless you have a special link. Let's talk about this race a little more, since he's waiting patiently, and then we'll get on to Hawthorne. From Hawthorne Racecourse, I can't say enough good things about this guy. I know he's going to have some strong opinions about Two Phil's, and I'm assuming most of them.
I'm going to guess he's going to pick Two Phil's. That's about as odds on as Victor Wembanyama just going first to the Spurs. I'm pretty sure they're about the same odds right there.
Jim Miller, right, you going with Two Phil's?
You have to. I mean, you have to. But here's the reason why, too, guys, and I know you've talked a little extensively about it. It's a smart move for Larry Ravelli. You look at kind of how he did everything leading up to the Derby, too. He said that the best thing that could have happened is what happened in the Jeff Ruby Stakes, that they didn't have to work real hard to win the race. Then he took that time going into the Derby, and you saw a bang-up race in the Derby. So no point coming back for the Preakness, no point coming back for the Belmont. Pick and choose your time. Know that the horse can work its way into the races and run a really good race, and that's what he's been able to do. They're going to pick their spots right now, space out their races. They had a goal of the Derby. They probably have a goal of the Breeders' Cup Classic at the end, so it's a matter of what happens in between. This is the type of horse, guys, that probably only has to run, even if they want to shoot for the Breeders' Cup Classic, 2 races, maybe a max of 3 in between the Derby and the Classic, and the horse will be just fine.
I'll tell you what, I got to give the Connections credit, because there's a lot of pressure to run Two Phil's in the Preakness and the Belmont. Yeah. You know they've been chirping, all these other tracks in a good way, and some people in a negative way, like, why isn't this horse running? He's sticking to his guns, man. He knows the horse best. I got to give him a lot of credit. Here's my question for you, Jim. Which of these 3 would you choose if Two Phil's loses, let's say? You would be absolutely floored, shocked, one of the biggest upsets of the year. You'd be a little surprised, or not surprised at all?
A little surprised. A little surprised, just because Bishop's Bay is a legitimate racehorse. And it's one of those things, and I think you guys are right in your assessment of the race. It's a 2-horse race. It's Two Phil's, Bishop's Bay. If you want to use both of them on a ticket, that's fine. If you want to take a stance, that's fine too. But to me, it's those 2 horses in the race. The one thing Pete said that I think he was right on, if Two Phils wants to go, they can have the lead too in this spot. So I don't think they're going to let Bishop's Bay get away. I definitely do not think they're going to go out there and just kind of walk the dog on the front end. I think the pace will either be honest with Two Phils right there with Bishop's Bay, or I expect Two Phils even to be on the lead. I don't think they're going to mess around in this spot.
Wow.
The horse is fit and ready to go. But you saw in the Derby, he was up there with a 45 half, and he was able to run on in the lane going 1.25 miles. So you're going a shorter distance. Bishop's Bay is at what, 47 and change, 48 type of horse to the half. Maybe if he gets pushed along 46, but if he goes 46 to the half, he's probably not going to be there in the end either. Whereas Two Phils has shown that he may be able to stick around.
I think we're going to move on from the race. I'd be surprised Two Phils on the lead. I really think he's going to sit third, but a comfortable third, just behind those. I think Henry Q's got to go from the inside with Carmouche, so he's going, Jim.
If Henry Q goes with Bishop's Bay, then it's perfect. Loveberry gets the dream trip. You sit right behind there and then just wait, and then you probably run away and win like you did with the Jeff Ruby Stakes.
Yeah, Jim, I think he attacks him right on the turn. If he's sitting third, I think he attacks him just to not take any chances of letting them get away, because we could obviously he has the stamina. We know that, and he has the stamina into decent paces. So I think he attacks him on the turn, gets the lead, and doesn't even make it a question.
Yeah, and the one other note that you had, Howard, about a depth of a surface, Hawthorne is a relatively deeper surface, and especially for training, it's just a little bit easier on the horses. And we put a lot of moisture in the track in the mornings too for workouts, but it is a little bit of a deeper racetrack, so that won't have any issue for the horse transitioning over to Thistledown. It's probably actually a relatively similar surface.
Cool. By the way, sporting the Hawthorne hat tonight, Jim, because it's a huge weekend we're going to talk about here in a second. Pete, we'll just leave Jim on screen here, if you don't mind, for our pick fives real quick. Pete, you're going 2, 3, 8 with 3, 4, 5, 6 with 6, 7, 8, 9. It should be with 9, 10, 11, 12, but with 4, 6, 8, 9 with 4, you're singling Two Phils, $96, but you do have some price in there, so you can get paid before Two Phils wins at 3 to 5, I think.
Yeah.
It's not going to be 8 to 5 if you get that line. I mean, go run into the window.
We go to the bank and get to withdraw some money at that point. No, I won't get into too much. I won't waste too much time. It's basically, I feel like the first 4 races are sort of spready. So if you have the single at the end, again, like you said, but we talk about this a lot. When there's not low favorites in any of those other 4 races, I think the favorites are going to be in the 3-1, 7-2 range. We've seen that on the morning line. I think if you get enough, even if you get like, hey, if I got a 5-1 shot, I got a 3-1 shot, then I get the chalk at the end, you can get a decent payment anyway, and you just press it if you need to. You sort of dwindle it down a bit, do a press ticket with the 4 at the end, and then maybe you could spread a little bit in those other ones and hope to catch a real good price.
Pete, we got a lot of people watching, but I got to say I'm a little disappointed. Only 11 likes. Come on, people. 11 likes for this video with Jim Miller and Pete talking about Two Phils. Come on. Show us some love, people. Hit that.
Is that the power of Paul? I mean, it must be. They're missing Paul.
Let's go.
I assume we have no dislikes. When we have Paul, we get the dislikes. So
that's true. We don't have any dislikes yet, but you just guaranteed now we're going to have some dislikes just by saying that, Pete. Here's my pick 5. $84. I'm very sprayed. I don't trust a lot of horses in the first 2 races, especially Pete. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9 with 2, 3, 5, 6 with 8, 9 with 4, 6, 8 with 4. I'm going a lot less deep in the third leg than you are, although if on a bigger budget, I would go deeper there. And again, I want to make it clear to everyone that we would use Bishop's Bay in an ABC format for sure. So we are not saying that Two Phils is like some slam dunk in this race, in the last race at Ohio Derby, although he's a very likely winner. Pete, I think that's going to take care of your portion, unless you'd like to add anything else going on in your life this weekend.
No.
Anything else?
Nothing too exciting. Just I'm actually, I'll listen in. I like to hear about the Jim's going to talk about the upcoming tournament. That's a big deal. So that'll be curious. So let you guys get into that. All I have to say,
want to stay on the screen and stay with us?
If you're going to talk about that next, I'll sit on just for that.
Great.
And then I'll drop off before you get to the races. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do that. So, Jim, welcome back, of course, to the show. Appreciate it. Hope you're having a good week. Hawthorne, before we talk about the Hawthorne Derby, which is Sunday, and I caught some of your simulcast feed last night from Canterbury. I was live out there. We had a great time. If you have any chance, Jim, you should check it out. We had
I've been there.
Drew live after a race.
Yep.
I actually physically ran across the finish line before the race, and Pete said I got an 8 buyer, but I'm going to contest that. I think I was a little more like a 15 buyer, Jim. I got to talk to Craig Bolkowski. I think and see if the timing was off. But
the run up distance was off. Exactly.
Something was off.
Jim, we should do something live at Hawthorne. We really had a great time at Canterbury doing a lot of live stuff. You and I will talk. We should do a live podcast from Hawthorne. It was a lot of fun.
So, and you talk about foot races on the track. Many years ago, when Katie Mickelay was working with me at Hawthorne, she challenged me to a foot race, and I told her that was not a good idea.
Wow!
But she did it anyway. So we went out there, and I won the foot race, and we have the photo of it. But here's the thing: the loser had to wait for the pond in the infield to freeze over, and we have a little island about 5 feet wide in the middle of the pond. And the loser had to walk out to the pond in the winter and do a pre-race paddock from out there. So Katie did a pre-race from out there one day. So when you come over and want to do any type of those things, there's always a little wager on the line too. So feel free. We'll have some fun with it. And we'll go from there.
I think Jim is about 1 to 20 in a foot race.
Yeah,
no offense, Howard.
Wait a minute. Now I've been losing. I've been getting in shape.
But Jim's got that like marathon running look.
Well, he's also like 8 feet tall. He can kick my ass.
That's what I mean. Yeah, he's got those long
strides.
He's got that Usain Bolt stride to him. Probably.
Oh yeah, for sure. As I'm actually don't see you guys on the screen. You know what? I'm gonna apologize, Jim. I was looking for the video. We've shown the video a bunch of times, the NHC video. I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. Let's talk about this weekend. You got 2 big contests, one that the public knows, one that most people don't know. NHC, huge contest opportunities Saturday and Sunday. I'll let you talk all about it. For people, again, the last thing I will say before you expound is you do have to be in the Chicago area. There are many great OTBs here, and they're all excellent with great food and etc. So you do have to be here in person. But Jim, talk about the NHC opportunities Saturday and Sunday this weekend.
Yeah, so the cool thing about, like you mentioned, it's at 6 of our OTB locations. So they're in the northern suburbs and suburbs closer to Hawthorne. So we do spread it out a little bit there. They're all great locations. Food, drink, you can spend the day. The thing about our contest is this: there's no entry fee. So that's the first thing for players. Second, it's a $500 bankroll, but you keep what you make. So if you have a good day and you don't win the contest, it's not like you've lost that $500 either. You're going to walk home with every dollar you've wagered. So if you plan to go out to the races and bet any track too, and bet about that amount of money, jump in the contest, because we don't say, oh, you have to bet one track or you have to bet these mandatory races for our contest. We allow the players to focus on whatever their circuit is. So we have some Southern California players that come in. We have Kentucky players, New York, Florida, you name it. People can focus on that. But it's like a day at the races. You can bet multi-race wagers. You can bet your pick wagers, or if you're a win place type of better. So it gives you all those opportunities. But we give over 20 NHC seats away through these type of contests each and every year. And then on Sunday, we have the Horse Players Invitational, where 3 people are actually going to qualify from the Saturday contest to play in the Invitational on Sunday. So we have a field of 56. It's going to become 59. It was almost 60, but Howard, we're going to miss you, my friend. But I'll tell you.
Yeah, I just let people know I had to bow out. I've got a family obligation that was switched, Pete. I was
wondering because somebody put the list on. I don't know if it was Hawk or Jim put the list on Twitter, and
they're like, what
happened?
Tell you about it,
I'm
Pete,
like,
but,
oh man, he got. I thought maybe he just got disinvited by Jim.
No.
We pissed him off.
Possible too, but no. I honestly, there's a family reunion that I have to go to. The dates were switched. Nobody consulted the hell out of me, of course. Because I was double dipping, Jim, for sure. I mean, I was playing.
All the players are going to,
and maybe there'll be a proxy. I'm no proxy. There'll be other opportunities. I do appreciate the invite, but I'm gonna have to take a pass this year. But anyway,
it's going to be a yearly thing. And when you looked at the list, and Pete, you saw the list. I mean, there's NHC winners, there's Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge winners, there's Tour champions, there's people that have qualified multiple times upon multiple times. It's such a fun contest. And that's one of the things where we want everybody to come out there and they kind of test their ability. We talked to Matt Miller earlier on in the year about the way he plays contests, and he takes those opportunities to really go after some of these plays and maybe make a big splash. Some days it works, some days it doesn't. But when it does, he does really well. And a lot of these players are like that. So they're going to take their chances. And the cool thing about it is we broadcast it on our YouTube channel and we talk strategy. You can see what happens over the course, not only of the mandatory races, but these optional races too. and see the way players strategize. Last year, everybody stayed kind of bunched together right around that $2,500 starting mark till the end. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. Somebody's going to jump out there, have $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, and then have to determine how they play things later. The last race of the tournament is the 7th race on our card on Sunday. It's a really good allowance field there, and they have to bet $750 on it. So that's going to be kind of where things may shift a little bit in the end, but it's very strategic for the contest. It's a lot of fun. And when you have these seasoned tournament players, you can learn so much as a bettor, so much not only from contest play, but day-to-day play as well, and the way they really look and think about it. So it's definitely worth, even if you're playing the races, have a second screen on with the YouTube channel and follow along with the contest.
Yeah, it was a who's who of handicappers.
It really is.
When you looked at the list, it was all the names. Sorry, Howard, I didn't mean to cut you off. Real quick, only question I had, Jim, is there a way to track the leaderboard or anything, or is it online or something?
Nope, yeah, we do an updated leaderboard on our website. So at HawthorneRacecourse.com, you click on the contest link, and we do updated leaderboards about every half hour. So anytime we have a mandatory race, we'll update the leaderboard. But then, of course, throughout the course of the day, because people do jump in with those optional plays and you see movement, everybody's like, well, what happened? And that's the cool thing about these players, too, is when somebody makes a move, we're able to grab them and say, okay, hey, you just boosted up $1,200. Well, we didn't have a mandatory race. Where did you play? What was the thought process and what was the logic? So something where we're going to be out there for 4 to 5 hours for the YouTube channel, following things along. It's a fun contest. It's a lot of work done by our crew. But as you see, the field is awesome. It's something that is ever expanding, and it's a really good contest.
Yeah, I was there last year, Pete. It was tremendous. And I believe Ed DeRosa is also going to be there.
That's coming in,
as well, because Jim, of course, needs to be at the track. Sylvain is from Canada. Jim wants to know, will Canadians ever be able to play from Canada? What's the plan going forward? How much control do you have over that?
So we do things a couple different ways. We have our online contest too, and we're actually about to start another one, which will also have an NHC qualifying seat for that. So you can sign up for that contest and play. We just finished one. Mike Wilkening held off Justin Dew near the end to win that contest. But we will have those online contests that you can jump in. And of course, if you want to come in, I mean, we try to focus around our OTB locations, but you can fly in and play at any of our contests or on site when we have them at Hawthorne too.
Awesome. We appreciate that. Pete, I think this is probably a good time to let you go. And Jim and I will talk about the pick 4. Pete, thanks for joining us. Good luck at Thistledowns on Saturday or any other wagers. And we'll talk in soon, my friend.
You too. Good luck this weekend, Jim.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete. See you.
Take care, guys.
All righty. Pete Visco. Jim, let's jump right in. The pick 4, and let me put up some banners here. The late pick 4 on Sunday. Again, this is Sunday, everyone. And here's Jim's picks in the 4 races. Actually starts with a stake, which is great.
Yeah,
it starts with the Hawthorne Derby. Now, originally, Jim, I thought you said this would be the last race of the contest. So maybe you guys made a change, which I think is interesting. Maybe it's because of the field size, I'm guessing. I don't know. You could tell me. But
and that's exactly what it is. And it's one of those things that's really weird because this time of year, the Hawthorne Derby always used to be in the fall. Now, you just had the Canterbury Derby a couple of days ago that you were there for. Monmouth has a race at the same exact purse for 3-year-olds on the turf on Sunday. And then Ellis Park actually hung an allowance race that is drawing some 3-year-olds into that were nominated to the Hawthorne Derby. So I'll admit it's probably a poor job by everybody all around, and because it's 6-horse field here, 6-horse field here, 6-horse field here. But what it does is we had to kind of pivot a little bit in regards to the contest, because when we originally looked at this, there were 31 nominations for the Hawthorne Derby. So we figured 31 nominations, you're probably going to have a field of 9 to 10, 11, and it's one of those things. And thank you, Raymond, there. But it's true. So when it ended up with 6, we said, hey, we're going to pivot. We have another very good turf race that we can close out the contest with, but still want to have the Hawthorne Derby in the mix. So yeah, you look at the field here, and I'll tell you, thank you to Manny Perez. He kind of saved this race. He put 3 horses in this race to help it go, and we'll see kind of how things unfold. But the question is, what do you do with the Mike Maker horse, a horse that was really well regarded last year and kind of has tailed off a little bit in these last couple, but he comes into this spot and he's going to be the heavy favorite in here.
Yeah, well, I have the PPs tonight because I thought it'd be important. You got Really Good, who's 7-5 for Maker, and the horse you're going with is Act of Fool, 9-5 for Ravelli. This is a speed horse who has never been on turf, but boy, look, how about this breeding? Oscar performance out of a quality road mare. So you would think that wouldn't be a problem. I did see unfortunately, Ravelli, what he lost with the 2-5, I think, yesterday, or was it Wednesday?
Yeah, yesterday.
Yes,
Be my bestie on the turf.
yeah,
Yep.
wow, lost to a 2-5. We were watching that live actually when I was before we went on. We were watching some Hawthorne, but I'm sure he's hoping this horse won't be 2-5. But is he loose? I guess you think he will be.
I think he will be. He's the one I like in the race, and I like him for two reasons. First off, because I do think he's going to be loose, and I like the race progression here. But here's the other thing. Again, in the new age of HISA, you can't run a stake race on Lasix anymore. Well,
Yep.
Act a Fool ran his debut on Lasix, and you saw ran terrible on the synthetic. He came off Lasix for that second start, and then all of a sudden it was big race, big race, big race with improvement each and every start out. Now everybody else has been running on Lasix in the recent starts. They have to come back off because it's a stake race. Well, Act a Fool has shown that he doesn't need the Lasix. And you're looking at a course here at Hawthorne and in the Chicagoland area. We've been in a massive drought of late. So
Yeah,
we're doing everything we can to keep enough water on the turf course, but it's going to be firm. Even if you get a little bit of rain, because there is some rain in the forecast Sunday, it's going to take a whole lot of rain to take it off this turf course. So plan on a turf race, and then we'll see kind of how things unfold. And hey, that one you have right there on your screen, you talk about an impressive victory last out without a deductions. This horse ran a massive race in that spot.
Massive. And actually, that race was part of a pick 4 that we discussed because we thought that race was wide open, if you remember, and he just blew the doors off of everyone. It was a pretty fast pace, though, so it's set up. The thing is, he cannot be that far back. I don't think he's going to be that far back. And I didn't look at this race in detail, Jim, to be honest. But if I did, I think I might go with this one and just hope that he's an improving sort that won't be too far back. I'm looking at the weather forecast also. We got scattered thunderstorms Sunday, 67% chance of rain. My guess, and you're going to have a somewhat of a say of this, I would assume that unless there's like lightning or extreme downpours, the turf course can take a lot of rain right now. So even if you get a thunderstorm, I mean, this race isn't coming off unless it's just torrential, right? I would think.
You talk about having a lot of say. I have the lone say. So it's my determination.
If you got thunderstorm, I mean, obviously it's got to be safe. Like, let's take lightning.
If there's lightning, we hold them in the paddock.
How much moisture can the turf take?
You're going to need probably an inch of rain to take it off.
Okay.
So you're going to need a lot of rain to take things off. So usually scattered thunderstorms means just that, scattered thunderstorms. Right. You may get some here, you may get some there. The course is just going to suck everything up. But kind of looking at things. And here's the question too, Howard, is, I mean, I did go 3 deep when we get to my pick 4, and we'll talk about that. But it's only for the fact that everybody's going to look at the connections and see Mike Maker and see turf and see a horse that ran in the juvenile turf. And all of that is going to be the reason why this horse will take a lot of action. But when you look figures-wise, the horse is basically just right there with everybody else in the race. So it's going to come down to just kind of what the bettors choose to do in here. Maybe they don't send the horse off at that short of a price, but maybe they do just because of the connections.
Well, since I'm not playing the contest, I feel much more willing to say how I feel about this race. Not that anyone in the contest would agree with what I would do on what I'm about to present. I would absolutely pound. I would Dutch a 5-6 exacta. So I would go 5-6 strongly or 6-5 depending on what I like. I would play one more than the other. I would toss the one complete out of the exacta. Maker had a horse that was 2-1 morning line last night at Canterbury in the turf sprint Artemis City Limits, who did not run well. I understand why you have him 7-5 because of the connections, but I'd be 5-6, 6-5 all over in this race.
Yeah, and you may get some value there because everybody's going to work everything around the one horse. So it's definitely a race where you have the potential to make a little bit of a score in a shorter field too.
Let's go on the next race. And you see his picks on the bottom of the screen, everyone. Jim Miller from Hawthorne Racecourse. Nice allowance, optional 62-5 here. It's a field of 8. Morning line favors number 3. Looking for Bala. I'm not familiar with this trainer. You can tell us about him. Giles, I know. You are going, where are you? You're going with the 2. Call me Iceman, Michael Campbell and Julio.
So Eddie Essenprice was at one time the president of the Illinois HBPA down at Fairmount Park. So that's kind of where he's stationed there. And Looking for Bala has actually raced very well at Hawthorne. So that's the thing. You look at some of those races, especially over the course of the fall. Those were pretty good races there. You have a stakes victory. That last out was a huge effort. And that's a big race over at Fairmount Park. because that's a track that's actually relatively deep too. So even to go in 111, you're moving along a little bit there, but was in full control. So the question for this race, though, is the 1 Rivs on a Roll can show speed. The 6 Eli's Promise can show speed. You have some horses there that can go out and kind of push things along. So for me, I wanted to find a horse that was going to settle a little bit off the pace, then look to come running at him. It doesn't need to be too far back, but the 2 Call Me Iceman, some really good races at Tampa Bay Downs. I think they were probably just a little bit too tough in that last out. And the winner of that race was uncashed, a Larry Ravelli horse in there. But the races at Tampa Bay Downs were actually pretty solid. And I just think it's the right trip. Settles behind what could be a 2 or 3 horse pace battle up front and then comes running at him. And I think you'll get a little bit of a price on the horse as well.
I agree, and has also been working well locally here over the strip. I'm not a fan of the fact he's in for 62.5, but because of the condition, they have no choice because he's past his N2X, so or N1X, excuse me. So he's got
nobody will jump in for that price. Nobody's going to take him for 62.5.
Okay. All right, let's go on to the next race. Again, I hope people that are playing in the contest or watching will find out that we're talking about it, because this is excellent advice. But not only for when I say the contest, I meant the invite, Jim. But I really should be talking about the NHC, because anyone locally or is going to be playing, you can play any track you want. But if you're going to play Hawthorne, this is great advice. I mean, you could just pound a 5-6 exacta or 6-5 exacta in the Hawthorne Derby and qualify for the NHC. If you want to go all in, just go for it. You can easily qualify. You hit it for, 6 to 1. There's 3,500. That might get you into the NHC right there.
Yeah, a lot of our contests, that does get you there. And that's the thing too. You're not just playing for one seat. So there's multiple seats. And on Saturday too, those people trying to get into the Horse Players Invitational. So it is. They're great contests. They give you the capability to just kind of expand and take some shots too.
I know one person who's going to be watching this, if not live, of replay, and that's Matt Miller.
Yes, sir.
He's a fan of the show. He's a good friend of mine. I don't know if he'll agree with our opinions, but
he's a good handicapper.
Guarantee you he will be watching a replay of this and taking some notes. Let's go to the next race. We're going to move this along, Jim. Race 7. It's a mile to 16th on the turf. Another a big field of 10. This is a really fun late pick 4 on Sunday. Whether you're playing the contest or not, 9 to 5 on solid country gold for Catalano Mojica. But you're going with Simply Logic for Block and Amy.
Yeah, and it's just based on how the race may set up. Solid Country Gold is going to need pace to chase after and will be coming from well out of it. Simple Logic just tends to rate a little bit closer to the pace. It was a good effort in that last out. Chased another Chris Block runner and Power Through, who was the winner. But I think Simple Logic probably needed that race. So it was about 9 months in between starts. So you come back here in this spot and you see a lot of consistent races there on the grass. I just think the horse is able to rate just off the pace in a race that, despite having a big field, isn't really a race that has a whole lot of pace. I think this horse gets a dream trip and maybe pulls off the upset.
And that would certainly help people. Now you can play doubles in the NHC, of course. You can play almost anything, actually. Pick 4s, pick 5s, almost anything you want, which is cool. In the invite, though, it's going to be restricted $250 each race. And are there restrictions? I can't recall.
You have to stay within the race, right? You can't. You can't go multi-race wagers or doubles. So you do have to stay within that race. Yep. Oh yeah, you can play tries in there. If you're looking for a horse for the try, it's the one horse family tradition. Maybe toss that one in the mix. That's a horse that I think is pretty well intended, and you probably will get that 9 to 2.
Met Cody Rosine last night at Canterbury. He
good
won
guy,
the
good
Canterbury
trainer.
Derby. Actually upset One in Vermilion, which was a really fast horse from California, and he won. And the horse that he won with last night in the Canterbury Derby is very similar to the Deductions horse, like a very lightly raced, just broke his maiden, and then ended up beating a more established horse. So these 3-year-olds at this time of year can really improve quickly. It's not as if they're fully developed yet, even though the summer is upon us here.
Yeah, and he's a very smart horseman. Places his horses very well. And I'll tell you, he did the right thing there, and it paid off for him.
Sure did. Last race, by the way, race 7 is the last race of the invite, you said, right? So,
correct.
And it's a nice big field. I see why you guys did that. I think that's a very smart decision by Hawthorne. Race 8's the last race of the day. It closes out the pick 4. It's for maiden 62.5. You see it's a field of 8. Moorline favors number 2, Mad Dragon. And you're going to go with number 1, Uncaptured Dream, Watkins, and Giles again.
And Jim Watkins is the guy who is the current president of the HBPA down at Fairmount Park. But Jim Watkins is having an incredible meet at Hawthorne. Look at his stats there. 50 starts, 13 of those coming as winners, 26 of 50 on the board. This is a guy who's having a solid meet. places his horses really well. And you look, the second this horse transferred over to his barn, all of a sudden you see improvement in those last 2 starts. Inside draw, should be able to rate close to the pace. And this is a race that, again, it doesn't have a ton of speed in here. So when you look up and down the field, I think this is a horse that should be able to get away in good order, could maybe even make the top and not have to work that hard to do it, and should be able to hang around throughout.
No, and I think when you have bottom level claimers, main claimers, you want someone on lead.
Yes.
These horses just don't pass. That's why they're unfortunately at the level they're at. Is just you see closers usually are more effective at the higher class races. That's usually how it works out. Jim, your pick 4, the bottom of the screen, 156 with 1235 with 127 with 124. This is a bigger ticket.
For me, it's huge.
I'm sorry.
It's huge for me.
It is big for you. Obviously, you didn't think anyone stood out. No singles, but listen, sometimes you just got to spread.
Sometimes you have to spread, and what we've seen at Hawthorne, especially with the 15% takeout on the pick 4s, is if you can just beat a couple of favorites, you're going to have a nice return. That's all it's going to take here. So if you happen to defeat really good in the Hawthorne Derby, you're in good shape. In race number 7, if you happen to defeat the Catalano runner, Solid Country Gold, then you're in great shape. If both of those horses are off and you can catch some of these others, even if they're the second or third choice, you're going to look at a return of over $100 easily to double your money, if not triple or quadruple it. So that's kind of the way that I looked at the sequence.
Yeah, I like your picks there, Jim. Let me bring up our closing banner. In July, I'm going to talk to yourself and the powers that be. We're going to try to do something in July. My personal schedule is pretty wide open in July. So we're going to try to do something at Hawthorne Racecourse, either have I have a bunch of people out, have a little outing on the rooftop or something, Jim, or maybe do a live podcast and or do both. I don't know. I'll talk to you in Dakota. We'll see if we can work it out. But I would be remiss if I wouldn't say that in July, Saratoga opens, and we do have a pool party. We're going to be live at the Crestwood, right? Crestwood OTB on the first Saturday of the Saratoga meet, which I like to say it's the 20th. No, it's the 15th, I believe. I think it's July,
the 15th. Yep.
July 15th on a Saturday will be the Crestwood OTB for a pool party. You'll be out there, I think you said. So that'll be a lot of fun. But I'd love to do something actually at the track. So you and I will be in touch about that.
Yeah.
But Saturday is going to be a great day of racing with contests, and the whole weekend at Hawthorne is going to, or sorry, Sunday. Both days are going to be great. But Sunday, there's no racing at Hawthorne. The contest is Hawthorne Saturday. Great day of racing on Sunday, and the invite and the contest again. Sorry I won't be there, but they'll be next year if I'm invited. Hopefully I will be.
You will be, don't worry.
And it's going to be a great I hate to put you on the spot. Maybe I shouldn't do this, but what the hell? It's live. There's 59 people? Who's the morning line favorite to win the invite?
There'll be 59 people. There's 2 players that I'm definitely going to watch. All right, Jim Bennis has watched the Illinois circuit for many years. Yeah. I've watched him make trip notes on horses. He does an incredible job. He's very thorough. He's one guy. And then I love the way Matt Miller plays tournaments. I know he's a friend of the show in that, but I love the way that he takes those shots, because it's not only taking the shots, but kind of knowing what you have to do and where you have to be bankroll-wise to try to win something like this. And a lot of the players, of course, are like that, but some that are really those very good seasoned players are the ones that I think can jump up and just have a big performance. So those are the 2 that I'll be cheering for.
Well, I'll be cheering for Matt Miller, obviously, and wish everyone luck. But I will say that, and Matt would admit this to you if he saw you in person, he'll tell anyone, he's really more of a open live money guy. So the restricted $250 a race, and then everyone gets $750 at the end is not his personal cup of tea. He'd much better say, give me a X amount bankroll and just let me gun it early, which you can't do in the invite, but you can do it in the NHC tournament. So I think he'll be firing with 2 entries, I'm guessing, and firing a big double early to try to qualify. I think he's qualified already once, but I think he wants to double qualify for the NHC. Jim Miller, great job, man. Really appreciate having you on. It's been a lot of fun. Got a big weekend coming up of racing. Please support Hawthorne Racecourse on Sunday with your betting dollars, whether you're going to be in the contest or not. And then, of course, there's a contest Saturday. But if you're not a contest player, support Hawthorne Racecourse anyway. For my co-host tonight, Pete Visco, and director of racing, Jim Miller, this has been Howard Kravitz, episode 270 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I want to watch a little bit of the NBA draft and then go to bed, Jim. It's been a long 36 hours for me, but we wish everyone good luck with their wagers this weekend at Hawthorne and at Thistledowns. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
It's, if you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.